I never thought that blood ties could feel so heavy, so sharp, as if they were chains around my neck. Growing up, people used to tell me that having a sister was a blessing, someone who would always stand beside you, no matter what storms came your way. But for me, it was different. For me, having a sister meant learning to survive in the shadow of someone who wanted to see me fall. Her name was Clara, and from the moment we were old enough to understand the word jealousy, I knew that was what defined her eyes whenever she looked at me. It wasn't the playful envy of wanting what the other had. No, this was something darker, deeper. She didn't just want the things I had, she wanted to erase me from the picture entirely. As children, it was small things. She would take my toys and break them, whisper lies to our parents, or twist stories so that I was always the one at fault. At first, I brushed it off. I thought it was just sibling rivalry. But as the years passed, her cruelty sharpened. Every compliment I received, every achievement I worked for was like salt on her open wounds. When I graduated with honors, she disappeared halfway through the ceremony. When I started my first business, she spread rumors that I had cheated people out of money. And when our parents passed away, leaving behind a legacy worth $10 million, Clara's eyes burned with something I had never seen before, pure, unfiltered hatred. The inheritance was simple, or at least it should have been, half for me, half for her, but she couldn't stand the thought that, after all her efforts to drag me down, I still stood taller. She accused me of manipulating our parents, of turning them against her. She shouted that I had stolen what was rightfully hers, even though every lawyer confirmed the will was fair and legal. The truth was, Clara had always lived beyond her means. Gambling debts, failed business ventures, broken relationships. She needed money not to live, but to survive the chaos she created for herself. And in her mind, that $10 million wasn't just inheritance, it was salvation. And if I stood in the way, then she was my enemy. I still remember the last conversation we had before everything changed. We were sitting in the family estate, the walls echoing with silence after the funeral. Clara leaned close to me, her voice cold enough to freeze the air between us. You think you've won, don't you? You think because they left you something that you deserve it. But everything you touch, everything you own, it should have been mine. You'll see, I'll take it back, all of it, even if it's the last thing I do. Her words haunted me, but I didn't know then just how far she would go to make them true. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked the halls of the empty house, staring at portraits of our parents, wondering if they had seen this coming. Had they known that giving us equal shares would not heal the wounds, but tear them open even wider? The $10 million was supposed to be security, a way to build the life I had dreamed of. But with Clara in the picture, it became a weapon, one she was determined to use against me. And deep down, I felt it in my bones. She wouldn't stop at words. She wouldn't stop at threats. For her, it was never enough to win. For Clara, victory meant watching me lose. And as I would soon learn, she was willing to risk everything, even my life.
Clara called a week later, with a voice so sweet it made my skin prickle. "Let's stop fighting," she said. "I booked a small sunset cruise for us, just family. We'll talk like adults. Mom and Dad would want that." If anyone else had asked, I might have believed them. But Clara's apologies always arrived tied to a string you couldn't see until it tightened around your throat. Still, I said yes. I told myself that peace was worth the risk, that maybe the ocean could wash the bitterness from us. Mostly, I was tired. Tired of sleeping with my jaw clenched, tired of checking the locks twice, tired of feeling like a trespasser in my own life. The evening was beautiful in that careless way the world can be when your heart is not. The yacht wasn't enormous, sleek, white, hired for the night. City lights winked behind us as we glided out into deeper blue. A warm wind lifted the hem of my dress. Crew moved with quiet efficiency. Someone set a silver bucket of champagne by the rail. Clara greeted me on deck in a silk gown the color of spilled wine, her smile bright as a blade. "You look lovely," she said, kissing the air beside my cheek. "So do you." I forced a smile. "Thank you for doing this." "For us," she corrected, linking her arm through mine. "For a new beginning." On the table, place cards waited like little promises. There were 8 of us. Clara and her boyfriend, 2 of her friends I barely knew, an old family acquaintance she claimed would help us untangle the paperwork, a quietly attentive captain, and a young deckhand who kept his eyes on the sea. I realized I was the only person there without an ally. It felt intentional. Dinner arrived in perfect courses: oysters the color of moonlight, herb-crusted salmon, tiny potatoes glazed like coins. Clara raised a glass. "To sisters," she said. "To letting go." Glasses chimed. My stomach knotted. I sipped and set my flute down untouched after that. Clara noticed. "Still cautious?" she teased. "I'm driving home." I lied. She laughed and brushed it off, but her eyes measured me the way a jeweler weighs a stone. Conversation unfolded like delicate theatre. Clara's friends asked innocent questions with not-so-innocent edges. "Do you think you'll sell your half of the estate? How much is the portfolio yielding? Aren't taxes a nightmare with that much money?" I kept my answers polite and small. The acquaintance, an oily man with a gold watch, mentioned a trust structure, perfect for sisters who truly trust each other. Clara squeezed my hand under the table. She whispered, "We'll talk later." I went to the rail between courses to breathe. The sea was a dark sheet, the sky bruised purple where the sun had sunk. Behind me, laughter spiked, then thinned. When I turned back, Clara was watching me, that bright blade smile back in place. She joined me with 2 fresh glasses. "For courage," she said, offering one. "It really is time, you know. The money is ruining us." "Then let it go," I said. "Live on your half, I'll live on mine." "But that's just it." Her tone softened, a tremor of confession. "My half, it's gone." She met my eyes, shame flickering there like a weak bulb. She took a breath. "Help me fix them. Sign temporary control to me. I can consolidate, refinance, and return it to you within 6 months. You know I'm resourceful." The wind snapped my hair across my face. "You mean give me everything and hope you give it back?" "I mean trust me." The words were soft, but her hand on my arm was iron. "Please." I pulled free. "No." The smile died. For a heartbeat, her face opened, and I saw it, the raw, gnawing hunger that had hollowed her out. Then the mask slid back. She laughed lightly, as if I'd just told a joke at a party. Of course, we'll find another way. Music drifted from the cabin, something bright and careless. We returned to the table. Clara turned the conversation to childhood memories, sprinkling them with sugar. Our parents' favorite songs, summers at the lake, the time we tried to build a raft that sank 10 feet from shore. Everyone smiled and sighed on cue. For a moment, I almost let myself be lulled. Almost. Then the captain announced calm waters ahead. Clara's boyfriend suggested photos on the bow. The light is perfect, and people rose in a cheerful shuffle. I hesitated. The deckhand passed close, murmuring, barely moving his lips. "Watch your step, ma'am." Our eyes met. Something like warning lived in his. Clara looped her arm through mine again. "Come on," she said. "One picture for Mum." At the bow, the wind was stronger, the rail cool beneath my fingertips. The city was now only a line of glitter thrown along the horizon. Clara stood very near, arranging a loose strand of my hair like a hairstylist. Her perfume was thick and sweet. When she leaned in, her whisper slipped into my ear like smoke. "You could have made this easy." I turned. "Clara?" She smiled, not the public smile, the true one. Small, satisfied. "Say cheese," someone called behind us. The dick dipped. Clara's hand tightened on my elbow, not affectionate now, but precise, measuring angles. "You could have made this easy," she said, too softly for anyone else to hear. My heart banged once, hard. "What are you—" "Shh." Her breath was warm against my cheek. "For us." Her fingers slid from my elbow to my ribs. Her other hand rested lightly on my back, exactly where a dancer would place a partner before the final turn. The ocean opened its dark mouth below. From somewhere by the mast, the deckhand shouted, "Ma'am!" Clara's smile widened by a fraction, a secret blooming, and in that fraction of a second, I understood. The dinner, the friends, the champagne, the photos, the whole night had been choreography. "Trust me," she said again, and the sea leaned closer.
The world slowed into fragments. The creak of the yacht, the hiss of the waves, Clara's perfume drowning out the salt air. Her smile was fixed, almost serene, as if she had been waiting her whole life for this moment. "Clara, don't—" I started, but the words snapped in my throat. Her fingers pressed harder into my side, and with a quick, practiced motion, she pushed. The rail vanished from beneath me. For a single breath, I was suspended in nothing, staring into her triumphant eyes. The smile never wavered. If anything, it grew. My sister, my own blood, was glowing with victory. Then the world tilted, and I was gone. The sea swallowed me whole. The cold was a blade. It cut into my skin, into my lungs, into my bones. I gasped and only dragged water into my throat. The weight of my dress pulled me downward, twisting around my legs like a snare. Above, the yacht's lights blurred and wavered, a cruel halo against the night. Panic clawed up my chest. Kick, breathe, fight. Every instinct screamed at once. I broke the surface with a ragged cough, waves slapping my face. I thrashed, arms flailing, choking between gulps of air. I looked up. Clara was there, standing at the rail, smiling down at me. Her hand lifted in a slow, mocking wave. Her friends crowded behind her, their laughter muffled by distance and the rush of blood in my ears. None of them moved to help. Not one. "Say hi to the sharks," she called, her voice cutting across the water like glass. Then she turned her back. The yacht began to pull away. I shouted, screamed until my throat tore, but the sound was nothing against the churn of the engine. My arms burned, my legs ached. For every breath I stole, the ocean demanded two. I tried to focus on survival, but Clara's smile kept replaying in my mind, over and over, etched like fire. It wasn't just about the money. It was about erasing me, about proving she could. The waves rose higher, salt stung my eyes. My lungs begged for air. I thought of our parents, of the inheritance, of all the battles Claire and I had fought before this one. But this time, there was no referee, no lawyer, no will to read. It was her against me, and she had stacked the deck. The cold seeped deeper, numbing my arms, my legs. I fought to stay above the surface, but each stroke felt heavier than the last. I knew, with a chilling certainty, that this was what she wanted, to see me sink, to let the ocean do the work her hands had started. For a moment, despair closed around me tighter than the water. Maybe it would be easier to let go, to stop fighting, to slip under and be done with the endless war between us. Clara would win. She would take everything. But then, through the roar of waves and the hammer of my pulse, I heard it. A sound, distant, faint, the low rumble of another boat's engine. My eyes snapped open. Hope cut through the dark like lightning. Somewhere out there, beyond the walls of water and betrayal, there was a chance. A slim one, but real. And with the last scraps of strength I had, I screamed.
The water had nearly claimed me when the light cut across the waves. A beam, shaky but real, swept past my face and then returned, holding me in its glow. I coughed, raised one trembling arm, and screamed again, though my voice was shredded by salt and fear. A small fishing boat veered hard toward me. The growl of its motor grew louder, fighting the roar of the sea. Two men shouted over the wind, their words broken by distance. One of them threw a rope, the line snaking across the waves. It missed, and my heart plummeted. But then another, closer this time. My fingers caught it, slipped, caught again. "Hold on," one voice bellowed. I wrapped the rope around my wrist, every muscle screaming as they hauled me through the surf. Arms grabbed me, rough, strong, alive. My body collapsed into their boat like dead weight. The deck was hard against my cheek, wet and smelling of fish and diesel. I choked and coughed until water poured from my lungs. A hand rubbed my back, firm and steady. "You're safe now," the older fisherman said, his weathered face etched with concern. Safe? The word felt foreign. I wasn't safe. Not yet. Because somewhere behind us, cutting away into the night, was a yacht carrying my sister, and the proof of her crime vanishing with it. "I need a phone," I rasped. My throat burned like fire. "Police! I need the police." The younger man hesitated. "What happened out there?" "My sister," I said, each syllable like a blade. "She tried to kill me. She wants my inheritance." Their faces hardened with disbelief, then shifted to pity. But I didn't care if they believed me. I knew the truth, and Clara knew it too. That was enough. The older Nan pressed a blanket around my shoulders. "We'll get you to shore, but you need a hospital." "No." My voice cracked, but my resolve didn't. "First, the police. She thinks I'm gone, and I want her to think that, until I walk back into her life, with them beside me." Meanwhile, on the yacht, Clara was already spinning her web. I could picture it as if I stood beside her. The laughter, the champagne, her crocodile tears as she told the others I had stumbled, that the ocean had claimed me, her voice dripping with grief as she spoke to the lawyer on the phone, asking what would happen to my share now that I was lost. The thought twisted my stomach, but it fueled me too. The fisherman brought me to shore at a quiet dock far from the city's glare. One handed me his phone. With shaking fingers, I dialed. The police listened. At first, the officer asked if I needed an ambulance. Then my words sank in. Attempted murder. Inheritance. Witnesses on the yacht. The tone changed. They promised to meet me at the station immediately. As I hung up, a chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the ocean. Clara thought she had won, but she hadn't counted on the sea spitting me back out. She hadn't counted on the truth walking ashore. I wrapped the blanket tighter and whispered to myself, "This ends with her."
The police station smelled of old coffee and wet uniforms. Fluorescent lights hummed above as I sat wrapped in a borrowed jacket, my hair still damp with seawater. Every breath scraped my throat raw, but my words poured out. Every detail of Clara's plan, her debts, her rage, the dinner on the yacht, and the moment her hands pushed me into the ocean. The officers listened, scribbling notes, trading glances. One of them asked the same question 3 times, trying to catch me in a lie. I didn't falter. My truth was heavy enough to hold me steady. "We'll need a statement from the fisherman who pulled you out," the lead detective said. "And then we'll need to move quickly." "Quickly," I repeated. My voice was hoarse but strong. "She'll already be trying to claim what's mine." By morning, Clara was sitting in the lawyer's office, playing the grieving sister. Her silk dress was black this time, her makeup just enough to show the effort of pretending she had cried. She clasped her hands, sighed dramatically, and asked what would happen to my share of the inheritance now that I was gone. The lawyer frowned. "It doesn't work like that. Until there's proof." "There is no proof. She drowned. The ocean doesn't give back what it takes." Her smile flickered, quick and satisfied. That was the moment the door opened. Boots echoed against the polished floor. 2 police officers stepped inside, and then me. I will never forget Clara's face when her eyes met mine. For one heartbeat, she looked at me as if she'd seen a ghost. Her mouth fell open, her carefully rehearsed grief cracking like porcelain. "Hello, sister," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. She scrambled to her feet. You're alive!" "Yes," I took a step closer. "And you're finished." The officers closed in, reading her rights as her voice broke into denial, screams, protests. She tried to twist the story, tried to paint me as unstable, but her words tumbled over each other, frantic, unraveling. The lawyer looked on, his face pale as the truth slotted into place. Clara's friends from the yacht would be questioned. The fishermen had already given their testimony. The deckhand had called in what he saw. The evidence was a tide she couldn't fight. As they led her away, Clara's eyes locked on mine. For once, there was no smile, only fury, raw and burning, mixed with something almost like fear. I exhaled. The weight that had pressed on my chest for years, the rivalry, the jealousy, the endless war, slid off me at last. She couldn't touch me anymore. Outside, the sun rose, throwing gold across the horizon. I stood there for a long time, breathing in air that no longer tasted of salt and betrayal, but of something new, freedom. The inheritance was still mine, but it no longer mattered as much as it once had. What mattered was that I had survived Clara's darkness and pulled myself back into the light. The war was over, and I had won.